Peace and good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you back into another edition of the Five Playland. As always, I'm your five player. Wanted to make this video regarding the proposed fight between Manny Pacquiao and Ryan Garcia. This fight has been in the rumor stage for maybe less than a week, and now it seems like it's materializing. And this video is actually a reason why I'm happy that this fight is happening. But I don't think much of Manny Pacquiao. I mean, I am gonna give him credit. He is a legend, and He's the last, icon of a decade past welterweights where they had to go through the ringer and fight a lot of legends. Unlike today's welterweights where they fight lackluster fights and want to be treated like legends, all while avoiding legendary fights that could be made today. Errol Spence, um, Bud Crawford. Both of those guys are guilty of my last statement. But having said all that, the two fighters that I just mentioned, Errol Spence and Bud Crawford, both used the Manny Garcia, you know, chasing a Manny Pacquiao fight. Excuse me. They both used chasing a Manny Pacquiao fight almost as a ploy to not fight each other. And I think whoever would have netted that fight in Errol Spence or Bud Crawford getting a Manny Pacquiao fight would have just made it harder for the other. I mean, or in negotiations to fight each other. You know, and I'm glad that at least for the time being, and maybe forever. I mean, hopefully Manny Pacquiao retires. I've been wanting Manny Pacquiao to retire. But both of these two clowns can't use that chasing a Manny Pacquiao fight instead of chasing each other. You know, but we'll see where this goes. I mean, I'm still from the school of thought in that these guys aren't gonna fight each other ever. You know, but hopefully something like this, like that, comes kind of like out of nowhere because I didn't really anticipate Ryan Garcia fighting Manny Pacquiao. They're not even in the same weight. I mean, like, but the this is gonna take Manny Pacquiao probably a year out of the equation of making another fight after the fact. So we'll see where this goes. I mean, are we gonna race towards mandatories? Like, I mean, are people still gonna be pushing for a Porter fight for Bud Crawford and for whoever fight for Errol Spence rather than pushing for them to fight each other? We'll see. I do predict that that would be what happens. But why waste time with asking these two guys to fight mandatories or glorified mandatories when they could fight each other? So hopefully, I mean, like, this is a fact. I mean, in Joey's perfect world, my government name, um, they this pushes Manny Garcia into a fast track into retirement. I hope he gets paid a bunch of money where he doesn't want to fight anymore, and doesn't fight Errol Spence or Bud Crawford. And I'm still from the school conviction that Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence would be a much bigger fight than Manny Garcia versus Bud Crawford or Manny Garcia versus Errol Spence. Like, they don't got to make that fight. But I mean, being that the boxing gods are jerk offs, what I predict is going to happen is that Errol Spence is going to pivot and say that he wants to chase a Canelo fight, and a lot of his zealous fan base are going to be saying that that's the fight that should be made with an Errol Spence. Oh, why should that's a business move, or why can't Errol make that money? This stupid shit that we've been indoctrinated to with the last 3 years when it comes to a career of Errol Spence or a body of work of Errol Spence that's been just slightly above lackluster. Same goes for Bud Crawford. I mean, if Errol Spence is slightly above lackluster, Bud Crawford's lackluster as far as their careers go. But you know, and we're gonna push another fan base of Bud Crawford fans who are just zealous, pissed off that they feel Bud Crawford is being ducked by a lot of the people that Errol Spence is for, and by Errol Spence himself. So 2021 is gonna be much like 2020. Except that a lot of this excuse making, which largely was based on chasing Pacquiao fights, given that both fighters, whenever they fought somebody in the past year or two, would mention Manny Pacquiao fights for their prospective future rather than mentioning each other. But what the Ryan Garcia Pacquiao matchup does is that it takes that out of the equation, which I'm happy for. And sure, I mean, like, do I envision Ryan Garcia acting like a hoe, like, in the future, and touting the fact that he got rocked by Manny Pacquiao as to a reason why he's an A side going into 2030? Absolutely. But Ryan Garcia is going to get rocked along the way somewhere. So I mean, I'm not sweating it too much. I mean, like, but that makes other fights um that are more like in the wish list of what we want Ryan Garcia to fight more feasible, like Tank Davis versus Tiafimo. Let's get Ryan Garcia out of the equation. But like knowing boxing and what it is now and how these boxers roll, like they're gonna be firmly on the nuts of Ryan Garcia and trying to chase that fight down rather than chase each other, or. So I mean, like, but I'm not worried about that right now because a lot of these guys that I see potentially trying to chase Ryan Garcia are a little bit on the younger side. So maybe when they come into like age 26, 27, these fights, they're gonna be unavoidable. But Errol Spence and Bud Crawford are before we knew it, like they're already 30, 32, maybe even older. I mean, so and that's why I don't see these fights happening. Or if they do happen, they're gonna be like 36, and that sucks. I want to see those fights happen like right now. But let me know what you guys think. I'm elated. Uh, the Devils win again in boxing because the people that should be fighting each other don't fight each other. If Errol Spence would have fought Bud Crawford or vice versa, 3 years ago, whoever was the winner would be like the dominant A side, bigger than Anthony Joshua probably, and Canelo in boxing. But since they want to be hoes and not fight each other, then you play second fiddle, and you got to wait on people like Manny Pacquiao, who have already been beaten several times, been knocked out, face down on the canvas, beaten by decisions, beaten in other countries and other continents. You want to go chasing that rather than fight each other, then you get second fiddle. One of those guys. I mean, I always said it. Like, I mean, the victor of Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, probably would have had a chance at dare I say, Floyd Mayweather, if he would have tried to resurface into the boxing game again. But since they've put their fights on hold, rather than fighting each other, when they were in their 20s, they put their fights and careers on hold. And people will argue, well, they're making 300,000 pay-per-views. In the case of Errol Spence, I mean, that's not a lot of money. That would be an abject failure, like, a decade ago. I don't care if streaming is a factor, or whatever, whatever have you, whatever excuses you want to make as to why 300,000 is this watershed moment for as far as pay per view sales goes. You know, when you are the absolute A side, you know, which you would attain by fighting each other, you don't have to worry about all those things. Even Canelo. I mean, like Canelo's not selling zero pay per views right now. He's on the DAZN deal, and he's making tons of money. And both of you guys will probably give up a child of yours to try to fight Canelo, to get rocked by him, more likely than not, to use getting rocked by Canelo as a excuse as to why you're an A side. You know, like that's the whole stuff that's going on in boxing right now. And like that's why, little by little, I'm just tuned out of the sport. And maybe I'm getting old. Who knows? Like, I'm about to be 40. But little by little, I'm just getting disenfranchised with the sport of boxing. I'm glad that my son's interest in boxing is was never too committed, because it's a very frustrating sport. Sports are frustrating in general for all my teams, which suck. As far as my teams go, all my teams are trash. um the Mets suck, the Rangers suck, the Jets suck, um the Knicks suck big time. So I'm gonna lace my my only begotten son to suffer through another sport of suck in boxing. Boxing sucks even more than those teams that I just mentioned, and it's getting worse and worse. At least the Mets, got a new owner. I'm not gonna get into all that, but the prospective boxing outlook going into 21 and 22, not much there. Um, but let me know what you guys think. I ranted for long enough. I'd like to thank my 90 subscribers. I lost 2 along the way. How the hell? Maybe it's my rantings for my affinity for President Trump and me voting for President Trump. But let me know what you guys think. Um, with all that said, but the 90 people that I do have as subscribers, I mean, I really want to thank you guys. Not that I'm getting paid off of it, but or like that I need the money, or that I need, but it is, I mean, the fact that I even got 90 people, I mean, that's a uh, a miracle, being that I go off on these rants, and I don't really have a um set of things that I talk about, um from day to day. But you know nevertheless, I do want to thank you, and I do hope that you guys have a smashing year in 2021, if I haven't wished it already. And be safe out there. Invest in silver, stock food, and arm yourselves if you have to, which you probably should have done in 2015. But that's it. Too much coffee. I ranted too much at the last portion there. But let me know what you guys think. And like I said, thank you for stepping into the Foul Play land with your boy, Foul Player. Peace.